for any information you might want to know about immigration. Just send me any topics that you'd like me to do a video on. I'm happy to do that. So anyway, let me start talking about the DACA Clinic. So on Thursday, I'm offering free consults, 15-minute consults to anyone who already has DACA, who thinks they might be eligible for DACA, who wants to apply for DACA for the first time, who needs to renew their application, and anyone with DACA who is looking for a more permanent solution in case DACA is canceled at some point. So I think I mentioned before, I have 2 DACA kids who work for me. So I'm very, very happy that recently there was a court case reinstating DACA. So at least they're safe for a few more years. So the way it works with the clinic is you send us a message, email, call us, let us know you're interested in the clinic, and you can reserve your appointment time. So we still have some spaces available, so it's a great opportunity to take advantage of free legal advice, 15-minute consultations on Thursday to honor the DACA kids. Really want to help people who might be eligible for DACA to come out of the shadows and apply for the first time. Or if you want to learn if you want to renew your DACA application, or if you want to learn about anything that you might be eligible for in the future that would get you a green card or a more permanent solution here in the United States, then just reach out and I'm happy to book you for an appointment, again, for free on Thursday for 15 minutes. Send me in your questions and I'll start answering those. I get a question a lot about how can I qualify for a work permit? So, and the answer to this is it really depends on your situation. Nobody can just apply for a work permit by itself. There's different categories for the work permit, so it depends what your status is. So if you are applying for a green card, you're eligible to apply for a work permit at the same time. If you have DACA or you're applying for DACA or for TPS, you can apply for a work permit. If you've applied for asylum, you can apply for a work permit. And there's a few other types of cases where you can apply for a work permit. For example, I have a client who is on an order of supervision with ICE. She has a final order of removal, but she's here on an order of supervision. So she's able to apply for a work permit with that final order of deportation and being on the order of supervision. There's a ton of different categories, so give me a call, let me know if you want an appointment about that, and we could see if there's some way that we might be able to get you a work permit. The next question that I have is, my children are American. I am applying through her. What are the questions immigration is going to ask me? I have my appointment very soon. What advice do you give me? So it's really important to make sure that you are eligible to adjust status to get your green card. So if your child is over 21 and is a US citizen, they can apply for you as their parent. However, you have to make sure that you are eligible for the green card itself. So if you have any criminal record, criminal issues, you should analyze that. Make sure you bring copies of your docket sheets. There are certain crimes that can make you ineligible to receive a green card. Also, the way that you enter the United States is really important. So if you enter the US with a visa and you never left the US, even if you overstayed, then you are able to adjust status. However, if you enter the US, you overstayed, and then you left, you're going to need a waiver. If you enter the United States with a coyote or smuggler or illegally, then you're definitely going to need a waiver. So it's important to know whether or not you need a waiver before you go to your appointment, because if you get denied for the green card, you can get put into deportation proceedings. So it's really important that you know what your status is. The cases for children applying for their parents is usually pretty easy to establish, especially if it's for your mother, because the mother is on a birth certificate and you don't need any additional proof. However, if it's the father, then additional proof might be required, especially if your parents weren't married at the time that they had you. So there might be a requirement for a paternity test or affidavits or other documents showing that the father has supported the child throughout their relationship. So when you go for the interview, you can just make sure you know everything about your case before you go so you don't have any surprises and you're prepared for the interview. The next question that I have is, what if I were to become a US citizen? How does the naturalization process work? Well, naturalization is to apply for a citizenship in the US. And to be eligible to be a citizen, you have to have 5 years with your green card. Or if you got your green card through marriage, you need 3 years with your green card before you can apply to become a citizen. If you're someone who got granted asylum, then you need 4 years with your green card. So the first thing is you need to know how many years do you need your green card before you can apply for citizenship. And usually you can apply 3 months before you reach that year mark. And you need to show that you've been paying taxes for the amount of time that you need since you got your green card. You don't have any serious crimes. That you, if you're a man, you have to register with the Selective Service between the ages of 18 and 26. So you need proof of your Selective Service registration. You need to show if you got your green card based on marriage that you're still married. So there's a number of considerations to take into account when you're applying for naturalization. And once you get all of the documents that you need, your green card, your passport, your birth certificate, any other certificates that you might need, plus your tax returns, then you can put together the N-400, which is the naturalization application, send that off to U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, and then you wait for your interview. And at your interview, then there's 3 different components to the exam. The first one is the English language. You have to demonstrate that you're able to speak English pretty well. And the way that they determine that is they'll ask you to write a sentence that they read to you, and then they'll ask you to read a sentence, and it'll be on an iPad. So you have to do all the writing and the reading off the iPad. And the writing on the iPad is kind of awkward, but that's how that's done. And then they ask you the civics questions. So the civics questions, the rules changed December 1st. It's a little bit harder now, but it's still not too bad. There are a potential of 128 questions, and you have to answer 12 of them correct, and then the exam will be stopped. So overall, if you don't get the first 12 correct, you have to show 60% correct for the exam to stop. So not super hard. Hey, Giovanni, how's it going? Giovanni says hello from Chicago. So that's the first 2 parts there, the English language and the civics. The last part of the exam is that they will go over your application. There's a bunch of questions on there about whether or not you're eligible. And it's the same sort of questions that they ask on the green card application about whether you have any crimes, if you have communicable diseases, if you're part of a terrorist organization, drug trafficking, weapons, etc. So there's a whole series of those questions, and then they're going to ask about your willingness to support the Constitution of the United States and whether you're able to take an oath of allegiance and so forth. So those are the 3 parts of the exam. After the exam, then the officer will either tell you you passed and you'll receive a notice for an oath ceremony, or they'll need to review your case a little bit more. But it's important to remember that you are not a citizen until you have your oath ceremony, and that's where you get your naturalization certificate. The next question is, what are the requirements for someone to apply for Dreamers for the first time? Great question. So to be eligible to apply for DACA, you need to be under 31. You need to have entered the United States in June of 2007 or earlier. You have to have been in the United States when President Obama made the announcement about DACA, the DACA program. You have to show continuous presence since 2007 in the United States. You need to show proof that either you graduated from school or you're attending school currently, and you also have to show that you don't have certain serious crimes. So that's how you qualify for DACA. Now, if you're applying for DACA for the first time, there is a lot of evidence that you need to use to establish your presence during all of this time. And it's difficult to do that when someone is entered as a child. Another requirement is you have to have been under 16 at the time that the program was announced. That you in the United States, sorry. And you have to show all of this continuous presence. So sometimes I have clients use report cards from school because they're not going to be paying taxes at that age. So it's hard to establish all of this time here without that. So maybe social media, school transcripts, report cards, letters from someone in your church or your mosque or wherever, or affidavits from friends and family saying, yes, this person was here during this time, or photos that are time stamped that can show when it was taken and where it was. So those are some of the ways that we prove someone is eligible for DACA. The next question I have is, what does legal permanent resident mean? So legal permanent resident is the same thing as essentially a green card. So a lot of people just use the word green card, but what that actually is a lawful permanent resident card, or LPR for short. So that's what a lawful permanent resident is. The next question I have is, my fiance is overseas and I want to bring her to the United States as soon as possible. Should we try to apply for a tourist visa first because the processing time is shorter? So it's really important that you're honest about your intentions about coming to the United States, because later on down the line, you might get in trouble for a misrepresentation. So if you want to bring your fiance to the United States, then the best thing to do is to just do the fiance petition or the K-1 visa. And I understand that that's difficult, but you should do things the right way. And sometimes if you do have the fiance visa application pending, you can still come and visit on a tourist visa. So but if you're coming and visiting on the tourist visa, you might have some difficulty coming into the United States because they think you might stay. So it's important that if you're trying to visit while you have your fiance visa pending, that you provide proof that you intend to go back, such as a return flight booked, or an itinerary of where you're going to be in the United States during the time that you're visiting, and proof that you have ties back in your country, such as if you own property or a business, or you have a letter from your employer that you're required back at work at a certain period of time, or that you have family members that you're taking care of. So those are some ways that you can get around it. The next question I have is, I am a DACA recipient. Can I ever become a lawful permanent resident or become a citizen? Yes, so that's the whole purpose of the DACA Clinic that we're doing on Thursday. Free 15-minute consultations to anyone who has DACA, who wants to renew DACA, or who is applying to for DACA for the first time. I also am going to be looking at if you might be eligible for some other status to become a green card holder or a citizen in the future. So some of the ways that someone can obtain permanent resident status is either through other family members can apply for them, if they marry a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident or green card holder, if they qualify for another type of status such as a T visa, a U visa. There's different ways that we can do it. And also if this person has DACA and is going to school and they gets offered a permanent job in the future, they can also get a green card through permanent employment. And any of these ways that they get a green card, then they can be eligible in the future to become a citizen. The next question I have is, I obtained my conditional green card through marriage and my U.S. citizen spouse. Things are not working out now and I want to get a divorce. If we get divorced, will I lose my green card? So usually when if a person goes and does a marriage petition, but they've been married for less than 2 years, they'll receive a 2-year green card, which is also known as the conditional green card. After the 2 years, they have to file to remove the conditions on the green card so they can get the permanent green card. Now, normally this petition, the I-751 petition to remove conditions, has both spouses sign jointly on this removal of conditions. But sometimes, as this person says, things go south. So there are waivers available. So if someone is going to get divorced, they can file for a waiver on this removal of conditions if they can show that the marriage was entered into for real reasons, that it was a real marriage and not just entered into for the purpose of obtaining a green card. So if someone's getting divorced, one of the things you can do is you can try marriage counseling and have a record of that to show that you attempted to reconcile with your spouse. You can also provide proof throughout the relationship of what was happening. If you went to events with your spouse, or you could provide an affidavit from the spouse explaining, why it didn't work out. You can provide a statement explaining why it didn't work out. And you can show things like commingling of finances and statements from friends and family, like you would with the marriage petition initially, just to show that it is a real marriage and you're getting divorced because it didn't work out, not because you went into the marriage just for the green card. There are other types of waivers available. We're working on a case right now for a man who needs a waiver for the removal of conditions because he suffered extreme cruelty from his wife. So there is a waiver available for battery and extreme cruelty. And if your spouse dies, then there is a waiver for that too. The next question I have is, can my spouse sponsor me for a green card if he is currently unemployed? Yes. So if your spouse is currently unemployed, that is not a problem in terms of sponsoring you for a marriage petition. It's going to be that you're going to need a co-sponsor. So normally when you do a marriage petition, you need an affidavit of support, and the person who sponsors you, your spouse, is the one who fills out that form. But if your spouse doesn't make enough money, then what you can do is have someone else be the joint sponsor to make up that difference. So the joint sponsor could be anyone who is a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident that has some connection to your family. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a family member. It could be a friend of the family who's willing to sponsor as well. The next question I have is, I am not sure if I can apply to DACA. Can I book an appointment for the clinic? Absolutely. If you think that you might qualify for DACA or have any questions about DACA, yes, you can absolutely sign up for the clinic, and we can look at your situation and see if you might be eligible for DACA or for something else. Thank you for your question. The next question that I have is, I am on TPS right now. Can I apply for a visa? So if you're on TPS right now, it kind of depends on your situation. If you want to schedule an appointment, I can look and see if there might be options available for you to go off of TPS and get a more permanent status. It's very similar to the situation with DACA. And we can look at that. Another thing about TPS is that there's an announcement recently that the work permit for any documents related to TPS are going to be automatically extended to 2022 for many of the countries. So that's very good, but we don't know what's going to happen with the program. So if you want to schedule an appointment with me, then we can figure out if you have any other options, just in case the TPS runs out. For example, I am doing a case for someone with TPS who missed her court date. So she had a removal order in her absence. We reopened her case with the immigration court, and we're doing something called cancellation of removal for her, which she should, as long as everything goes well, she should leave that court hearing with her green card. So that's one way that we're always looking for creative solutions. so that we can find a way for people to get legal status in the US. The next question I have is, I have a green card. Can I invite my parents to visit? So you can invite them to visit, but they can only visit on a tourist visa. You cannot apply for your parents until you become a citizen. Thank you for the question. Please let me know if you have any more questions. And definitely hurry up and get your appointment for the clinic. Really want to help as many people as possible on Thursday, and share the news with your friends, like and share, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We've been releasing some videos on different issues, so it's a great way to learn about different things about immigration law. And I hope that you tune in. We have our program Miércoles con Melanie this Wednesday at 4 p.m. This is our program in Spanish. And send in all your questions, share with your friends, and thank you so much for tuning in. Take care.